What's going on, everyone? Scott here. Welcome back to the channel. So Michigan State football enters early signing day this Wednesday. Not in a great position, but some guys, there is definitely quite a few guys on their recruiting list and guys that have verbally committed. Got to get pen to paper on Wednesday. That I am, and a lot of people are very excited about getting to East Lansing. But the rankings, I think, is what most people are getting hung up on. We're going to talk about it, but first, if you could, just hit that like and subscribe button down there. More Michigan State football content on the channel. We'll have later this weekend, a full look at this Michigan State football season as a whole and what to expect this off season, transfer portal, going into the spring, summer, what we want to see from this team and Jonathan Smith and staff. But anyway, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a video. So at time of recording, Michigan State currently ranks 59th in the country in recruiting rankings. That's national rankings, and then current Big Ten ranking is 16. There's 18 teams in the Big Ten. Not good for Michigan State football right now. And look, this is going to be the second offseason, second class for Jonathan Smith. And a lot of guys, last class he was able to bring over with him from Oregon State, that him and the staff had recruited at Oregon State, and he was able to get and bring over to Michigan State. This one comes in December. You're trying to, I'm not going to go through the whole song and dance. We don't do a whole lot of recruiting here on this channel. There's plenty of other channels out there that do, and you can know, but just the basic sense of recruiting. You have a new coach coming from the West Coast, from California, from Oregon, had coached on the West Coast his entire life. And then now you are coming to the Midwest, to Michigan State, and you're trying to create those relationships in the Midwest. And a good amount of your staff is coming from the West Coast with you as well. You did bring in Joe Rossi. Courtney Hawkins, obviously still on staff, had been here on the last staff as well, played at Michigan State. So, there's some guys on staff that know the landscape, but the main guy, Jonathan Smith, making all the decisions, still making inroads in the Midwest here, in Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, this area of the country, and making inroads with high school coaches, recruits, and everything like that. It was going to take time to make those relationships. So I think all along, I don't think the results of this season helped anyone from overreacting a little bit about recruiting, but you shouldn't be ranked 59th ever in recruiting at Michigan State, a school that is always top 20 revenue for football and a big brand like Michigan State. Like, yes, we'll get to some more honest conversations about Michigan State football and what we've seen really over the last, 8 years in a longer video. But really, yes, at the end of the day, this is still Michigan State. There's no way you should be outside of the top 35 recruiting rankings ever, just based on name alone. And right now you sit at 59th nationally, 16th in the Big Ten. Not good. But I'll tell you why at the end, while I'm not really freaking out long-term about this. But just getting into some guys that are, this isn't the whole list, it's some of them. I just wanted to highlight a few guys, and, obviously at the top of the board for Michigan State. 4-star Derek Simmons, defensive lineman from Frankenmuth. He's your only 4-star in the class, and this is the main guy. He's kind of was a 3-star when Michigan State offered him, got the commitment, and then I think slowly he's just kind of risen up and is now a 4-star. Quarterback for the class, Leo Hannon from Anaheim, California. This is a guy, I've watched so much of this guy's tape, and I am so high on this guy to be the quarterback once Aiden Childs graduates, hopefully in 2 years, keep him here for 2 years, and then Leo Hannon starting as a redshirt sophomore. I really love his game. Defensive back, Aiden West from Maryland, guy that has seemingly been on the rise as of late, has been committed since June, but recently visited Virginia Tech and Ohio State in November. But he seemingly stayed strong with this staff and his commitment to Michigan State and been engaged with the program. So hopefully able to get pen to paper and keep Aiden West committed to Michigan State here on Wednesday. A recent flip for Michigan State, defensive back Terrence Edwards, cousin of actually former Michigan State wide receiver Felton Davis, after a Michigan State visit at the Purdue game recently, just flipped former Western Michigan commit running back Zion Gist after Jace Clarizio, East Lansing guy, running back, flipped his commitment to Alabama. He's a 3-star. Zion Gistis from Illinois. There's only 2 offensive linemen in this class. Offensive tackle Justin Bell from Macomb, Dakota, and interior offensive lineman Drew Nichols from California. We'll touch on a little bit more of that position later. Jaden Savory coming in at tight end from Orchard Lake St. Mary's with fellow Orchard Lake St. Mary's player linebacker Charles White. You got another linebacker, Damari Malone, coming over from Macomb, Dakota as well. And some names to watch out for really coming on Wednesday. As listen, I don't know if these guys are going to be early committing, early enrolling at early signing period, or if these are guys that we'll just have to keep an eye on for the late signing period in February 5th, I believe it is. But just some names scrolling through their offer list to kind of keep an eye on that are still kind of up in the air, or Michigan State is kind of still in on, it seems like. First up, Emmanuel Naui, edge rusher from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, visited for the Purdue game just recently, just visited Boise State this past weekend as well. Name to watch out for there, especially at a position of need for Michigan State. Then next up, Dwayne Galloway, cornerback from Columbus, Ohio, was crystal balled to Purdue, but with the coaching change there, just early on afternoon on Sunday, obviously Ryan Walters was fired at Purdue, coaching change coming there. So curious if he opens his commitment and, maybe a late signing day ad. I don't believe he has visited. So this may be something to keep an eye on for late signing period in February. But listen, I don't know, as I said about these guys, these are just 2 names that kind of popped out to me when going through the list of offers for Michigan State football. But these are guys, don't know about, possibly flipping them, maybe, and don't know early window, late window, who knows. But I think the best case scenario right now for Michigan State football is, it looks like finishing in the 50s range. You were up at 61, I believe, a couple days ago, but over the last couple days had moved up to 59, so you've been floating in that range. Now, finishing in the 50s, I don't think any major high school recruiting will, any flips that major to move them up into the 30s will happen in the coming days. But something that we can look at is the transfer portal window. And I think this is going to be very important for the stability of the program going into a very important offseason and very important 2025 season. Looking at just some portal needs, an overview is, looking for probably a experienced running back. I like the young guys in the room and hope that, guys like Brandon Tullis, Malachi Frazier, I hope that those guys get a majority of the run, but do want another experienced running back in that room next year. Experienced senior, not a guy to take away carries from those guys too much, but just an option to have in there. You need another pass catcher. Nick Marsh, obviously got to keep him on the roster. Like what we've seen at times from Isaiah Johnson, Jerron Glover, shown flashes, but need another guy in the mix there. Tight end, maybe you bring in another guy, but as long as Jack Velling is back, which it seems like, you get the other guys in the room healthy, Brennan Parachek, Michael Masunas, get those guys healthy. I think you'll be fine there, especially with, as we did talk about, with Jaden Savory coming in at tight end from Orchard Lake St. Mary. Offensive line, you need to bring in depth there. And, most important position probably in the offseason to attack in the transfer portal. The biggest problem this year was depth at offensive line. We talked about it throughout the season at times, and that offensive line suffered an insane amount of injuries, especially early in the year, and it just kind of wore down on the group throughout the whole year. Defensive line, same thing, need to bring in some more depth, both interior and exterior on the edge. I like, obviously we talked about earlier, freshman Derek Simmons, need to make sure he signs on Wednesday. I like Alex Van Summeren on the roster as well. I like Ben Roberts coming back. On the edge, like obviously Jalen Thompson, but just need to add some more depth there. Linebacker, you're losing quite a bit of production, guys that have played a lot of snaps, but still like the young guys like Jordan Hall, Brady Pretzlaff. I believe, Darius Snow and Wayne Matthews could be back again next year. So again, just adding more depth there probably. Defensive back, I think, is huge. Again, you could have, Charles Brantley, Malik Spencer back, Dylan Tatum coming back. But I like the young guys that, kind of got thrown into the fire. We've talked about at times, Jalen Thompson, Caleb Cooley, Chance Rucker, those guys, just adding, another experienced cornerback, safety in that room, I think would be big. Just to, as we said, that's kind of the gist of this offseason is adding experienced depth to this team. Main thing is, yes, if you can find starters at some of these spots, that would be great. But depth, as we've said multiple times, is going to be the name of the game this offseason. I think the biggest thing, we can look at for recruiting is, make sure the guys that you have committed sign on Wednesday. Get those guys. Maybe you can flip one or two guys. We mentioned one or two guys here. If you can do that, but then attacking the portal here in recruiting, we'll obviously be covering and talking about it here on the channel throughout the portal cycle, but adding depth to make this, I think best case high school recruiting is make sure you finish in the 50s. With the portal class added in, I think it's a possibility that you could get below 40, below 50, get into the 40s. I think that's something that you can, that you can achieve with a solid portal class, but we'll see. But anyway, yeah, we'll be back. Obviously, this is coming out before signing day, so we'll be back after signing day to make sure everyone's signed and talk about the guys probably a little bit more individually, go through the list if there was any last second flips here for Michigan State, and talk about what we can expect going forward, if anything, for the late signing period. And then, as I said, obviously we'll be back with a season overview for Michigan State football, and then be back attacking the transfer portal. Talk about that as well. But anyway, that'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.